I observed my stepson playing and decided to help. I never imagined myself hesitant at my bedroom door. Not because I lost my keys. Not because I forgot. But I was scared of what or who was on the other side. I stood frozen that night. I held the doorknob. I thought my heartbeat resonated down the hallway. The silence surrounding me? Very thick. Silence that presses against your ears and makes your thoughts sound louder. I had no idea my life would alter. No warning. No time to prepare.
A peek.
A forbidden glimpse. I saw Caleb do it first. Caleb, my stepson. Before your mind wanders, listen. You must grasp this. This narrative is difficult to tell. Not fun. Not cute. Definitely not easy. This story makes you queasy. The kind that wakes you up at 3 a.m. to wander in the dark. How did I get here? Because I'm not evil. This wasn't planned. This wasn't requested. Was just a woman. Long-time, lonely woman. The feeling of being seen was forgotten.
Caleb saw me.
I'm ahead of myself. Return with me. Not the moment yet, but what led me there. That door. That reluctance. That option. Have you visited a property with a perfect exterior? Clean driveway, nice lawn, porch flowers? But inside are just pretentious people? Was my home. An overworked spouse who spoke to me like coworkers.
Who didn't hit me.
Really moved me. Close to 2 years. I counted his weekly glances. Finally quit counting. Caleb followed. 19. Polite, respectful, quiet. After mother-son conflicts, he moved in. Not my place to ask questions. Sometimes his eyes looked. He appeared to be holding something hefty. Strange how broken individuals can sense each other. I kept my distance. I had to. He had a stepmother. I cooked, cleaned, asked about lessons, and stayed on track. Up until night. That one moment, I saw something I shouldn't. I almost gasped when I saw Caleb's genuine, personal moment. What made it worse? Just what twisted the knife? Was I involved? I wish I could say I ignored it. Wish I could claim I challenged him. I wish I could say more. But truth?
The truth is messy.
Have you ever been genuinely alone in a crowded house? If you've ever passed a mirror and not recognized the lady staring back or needed a single instant of connection so much that it scared you, you may understand how things transpired. Before I continue, if you've ever carried a secret that made your chest feel heavy every day and wanted to scream the truth, but didn't know how people would react, hit that like button. New to Shocking Infidelity Saga? We present true stories that will challenge your beliefs on love, loyalty, and the human heart. Subscribe to our emotional raw community. We don't judge. Let me take you back to that night, the hallway, the silence, and the door I didn't want to open but did. I thought being a stepmom would be warm, loving, nurturing, helping someone grow, guiding, and a soft landing. It felt like another to-do list item. Despite no one talking, get groceries, do laundry, check in with Caleb, and smile at dinner. I used to believe I was lucky at 38 and married for 7 years. My spouse Matthew succeeds.
He gives.
Always made sure we had a great house, 2 cars, insurance, and a retirement plan, but he stopped looking at me long ago. I doubt it was personal. I think he lost how to touch me like I mattered, chat to me without checking his phone, and sit next to me without feeling like coworkers sharing a break room. Often out of town. Business excursions, conferences, overnight meetings. Sometimes he texts to check in. He sometimes doesn't. What hurt most was how quiet the house had become, not from tranquility, but from remoteness. Caleb's arrival deepened the quiet. Son of Matthew's first marriage, Caleb, 19. We weren't supposed to house him. He had his own life, rhythm, and complicated relationship with his mother. But something happened between them that no one cared to discuss. He brought boxes and set up in the guest room down the hall. Next thing I know,
I didn't know how to react.
I felt responsible even though he's not my son. I made additional dinners, left messages on the fridge, and asked about classes. I'm all right with a shrug or mutter. His manners were gentle and respectful. He seemed sorrowful, like he was carrying more weight than his age. I occasionally caught him watching me, not wrongly, but differently. Like he saw behind my facade. Matthew never saw me anymore, so maybe that terrified me most. Not my true self under makeup and practicing grins. not the woman who cried in the shower to relieve an inexplicable emotion. Although Caleb didn't speak much, his quiet was different from Matthew's. I wasn't ignored. It invited me in. House itself didn't assist. Clean, chilly, and big. Nothing amiss. No photo frame flipped. This area should be safe and welcoming, but it seemed like a museum. Like we were all performing roles, polishing, and terrified to touch anything real. 3 chairs were full at the dining table, yet the room felt empty. Matthew browsed emails between bites. Caleb watched his plate. And I'd smile, make small chat. I'd ask about everyone's day. I cleaned dishes quietly, same as usual. I sometimes stood at the kitchen sink long after the plates were washed, clutching the sponge and staring out the window, becoming lost in the solitude. I don't know when Caleb's presence became a mirror instead of an intrusion. Perhaps it was his way of thanking you after dinner, when no one else did. Or how he'd notice if I altered a simple item like my necklace or hairstyle. He may have seen me, not like a man looks at a woman, but like a person who sees the holes in someone. Not love. It wasn't want. This was acknowledgement. This kind of attention sneaks up on you. It makes you ponder what you've missed and how to feel it again. I arrived home early one night. It was unplanned. Matthew left town again, and my meeting was canceled. I recall pulling into the driveway and seeing all the lights off except Caleb's upstairs window's warm orange glow. The house appeared to be holding its breath. I quietly opened the entrance door to avoid disturbing the air inside. Maybe I didn't want to say I was home. No idea. The floor cracked under my heels, like when you're not allowed to be there. No one touched the living room. No sink dishes. No TV sound. Just that quiet buzz that seems to monitor you. I went upstairs assuming Caleb was doing homework or sleeping with the light on. But I heard something at the landing. No music.
No chatting.
Another delicate, rhythmic, breathy thing. Heart skipped. I vowed not to invade his privacy. I stopped despite telling myself to keep walking. He had a cracked door, just slightly. Enough to give a little warm light into the hallway. Enough to hear what I shouldn't. I can see plenty. Spying wasn't my goal. Not looking for anything, but my eyes saw it before my head did. Sitting on his bed, his back arched, his hand moved under the blanket. That familiar frigid glare from his laptop screen illuminated his face. No breath for a moment. It wasn't his job. He was watching it.
It was me.
Old registration took a second. I almost forgot about this video. Matthew and I from years back. One of those intimate things we captured on a rare night of passion back then. I forgot where we kept it. I believed it was gone. There it was. Caleb watched. Watching me. I was silent. I stood frozen. Part of me wanted to rush in and grab the laptop to yell. My least proud portion stayed. I retreated slowly. Hands shaking, breath stuck in throat. The corridor and air became too small and thick. I entered my room and closed the door like a ghost returning to its shell. And I stood there, staring at nothing. Mouth dry, heart pounding. The revulsion, violation, and confusion were mixed with something more. Nothing I wanted to identify, because Caleb wasn't watching me, was the worst. Its emotional impact was terrible. Seen, wanted, not terrified or disgusted. That made me despise myself. Still shaking, I sat on my bed edge trying to make sense of it. Why that video? How did he discover it? Was he aware I saw him? Did he want me to see? I tried to convince myself it was an accident. He found it, and it didn't matter. Deep down, I knew better. The way he looked at me lately was tender and interested, like I was more than his stepmother. That night, I rested on the covers in a robe, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling and reliving the vision. Something had changed, so I saw and felt differently. Even though I tried to persuade myself it was simply a moment, I knew it was the start of something else. The next morning, I pretended nothing had happened. I smiled, poured coffee, and asked Caleb for bread. As usual, he agreed, very polite, like nothing happened. Nothing was normal now. Sitting across from him at the kitchen table, I watched my cup steam, my stomach churning with each second. He didn't avoid my gaze, but neither did he seek them. Sat there calmly eating like any other day. Not knowing may have made things worse. Was he aware? Was he embarrassed? Did he want me to see? Was it a mistake? A wicked coincidence? I tried to forget it all day. Cleaning unnecessary items, reorganizing bookshelves and the pantry. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw that image, that moment, him watching me. I thought it was curiosity. He may have found the video accidentally. Maybe he clicked unknowingly. The more I pondered it, the more I knew. That wasn't it. It wasn't chance. It was planned. What horrified me more than that realization was how I felt, a strange, dreadful thrill behind all the terror, bewilderment, and shame. Really hated it, though I loathed it, it was there. A horrible flutter in my chest like something had woken up. I noticed things I hadn't or had been neglecting. Caleb's expression when I bent down to fetch something from a low cupboard. He lingered in the kitchen after supper, watching me tidy. He moved his eyes slowly, not rudely or forcefully, like he saw me like no one had in years. I couldn't unsee it. It had been ages since anyone looked at me like that. Matthew once did. He used to come up behind me while I cooked, wrap his arms around me, and kiss the back of my neck when we first got married. That version of him vanished between years 3 and 4. Perhaps he touched me briefly. Touch the shoulder, arm. Mechanical, hollow. Touch that says, I should touch you. Therefore, here's something. Caleb's glances weren't empty. After realizing that, I became hyper-aware of him. Before turning around, I could sense him enter a room. His footsteps were softer and slower around me. His voice dropped slightly like he was talking to me, not just around. I changed too. First it was small and harmless, I thought. My morning robe was looser, and I made breakfast in tank tops instead of big t-shirts. No, not for him. I kept telling myself. I knew it wasn't. I dressed slower and more deliberately, choosing clothes that clung to the correct areas. I remained by the door longer, hair unpinned, skin warm from the shower, knowing he might pass by my room. I kept doing it despite hating myself. I didn't look away as we traded long glances across the kitchen or down the hall. Should have, but didn't. Instead, I craved the attention, intensity, and fire I had missed for so long. I nearly forgot how it felt. It wasn't about Caleb initially. I wanted to feel alive again, like someone saw me. Every night when I went to bed, remorse flooded in like a wave. Very wrong. My husband's son. It didn't matter that we'd only lived together for a few months or never been close. But the boundary between right and wrong was clearer. The object was shifting and getting harder to see. I got closer to it every day, one glimpse at a time. Start with small things that seemed innocent from afar, but were not innocent up close. I came home from the supermarket with bags in both hands and sore arms the first time. I was fiddling with the keys when the door opened without a knock. Caleb, without saying anything, pulled the heavier luggage from my arms, brushing mine. Though fleeting, I sensed it like a spark or query. We were too terrified to inquire, so he carried them into the kitchen and laid them down gingerly like they'd break. He looked at me deeply and said, "You shouldn't do this alone." It was 6 words only, but they stayed with me because Matthew stopped saying that. Matthew thought I'd manage everything. Shopping, cooking, cleaning, scheduling, smiling. I'd been married for 7 years, but Caleb, 19, noticed more. Our talks changed afterward. They deepened. It started with casual kitchen discussions about music, school, and books. But then he started asking me actual questions about my life and who I was before marrying his father. I answered and he listened, not with that half-nodding, distracted glance Matthew gave me from behind a laptop. Caleb listened deeply, leaned in, looked at me, and made me feel recognized. I looked forward to him. Matthew left town again one night. I was drinking wine and watching an old movie in the living room. Caleb entered, paused, and sat on the couch opposite him. Instead of talking, we watched. The scene altered. The screen couple kissed gently and tenderly. My body tensed. I ignored him. It wasn't necessary. I sensed the air shift. A few minutes later, I grabbed the remote. He arrived simultaneously. Hands touched. We paused long enough to make it meaningful. He retracted his hand. "I'm sorry," he said. Shaking my head, I didn't say it was okay. I couldn't, it wasn't. So it was. After that, Touches became more deliberate and frequent. He touched my arm when he passed me the salt in the hallway, uncomfortably close. He let me through a door with a hand on my back. Small stuff, explainable. Because I didn't want them to stop, I stopped explaining. I searched for him, lingered in the kitchen hoping he'd come down, walked in the garden after nightfall knowing he may follow, and left my bedroom door slightly cracked. Then notes began. A book I left on the couch held the first one. 5 clumsy handwritten words. "You're more than visible." I studied it at length. The second slipped behind the kitchen counter sugar bowl a few days later. "You deserve feeling, not just seeing. If I could rewrite time, I'd start with you." Each note tightened my chest, not with guilt but with pain. I ache for something I shouldn't want. I buried them in a drawer with old scarves and forgotten birthday cards. However, I would read them like love letters from a bygone life. I never lived late at night when the world was quiet. While cleaning the living room one afternoon, I knocked over Caleb's sketchbook. I didn't intend to open. I was picking it up to put it back on the bookshelf. The page was open, and there I was, softly sketched in pencil, brushing my hair on my bed. That moment was remembered. It was last week. I had no idea he was observing. Staring at the sketch, my hand trembled. He nailed something intimate and honest. Looking at my old self was strange. Someone wanted, not the exhausted wife or invisible woman. Was it my imagination? Maybe he invited something? I warned myself that playing with fire in a dry wood house was unsafe and wrong. But I continued, not closing the door. I kept the notes. I kept the sketch. I kept going moment by moment. Deep down, I knew the outcome. Anger filled the sky that night. Chest-pounding thunder roared in from the distant. Rain battered the windows like it was trying to get in. Matthew left town again. This time, a conference. Probably sunny. Not asked. Although quiet, the home felt charged and weighty like it was holding its breath. The electricity went out at 9, leaving only darkness. No refrigerator hum. No hallway nightlight glow, just silence and rain battering the roof. I scattered candles about the living room. Shadows danced in shifting light. The storm outside seemed distant to my inner turmoil. Caleb descended, shower-damp hair, no shirt, loose sweatpants. He halted and grinned briefly when he noticed me with a torch. "You okay?" he inquired. To prevent the house from becoming a cave, I nodded. He sat across from me on the floor, facing the coffee table, lit by candles. We started off talking about how the storm reminded him of being a kid and hiding beneath blankets to think thunder was giants bowling in the sky. I laughed not because it was humorous, but because hearing his voice was heartwarming. A lengthy, comfortable silence followed. I couldn't stand his serious stare. "Why that video?" I whispered. He swallowed, blinked. "It was the one time I saw you adored. Therefore, I saw the answer in his eyes before he said it." I opened up to those words after years of holding back. I said nothing. I couldn't. I stared at him as the candlelight flashed between us, making the space feel smaller, more private, and more intimate. He reached out slowly, fearing I'd flinch. His hand brushed mine. I stayed put. I swear the world vanished as his gentle fingertips touched mine. Storm, remorse, years of silence. Just him and me, and what we hadn't said. Eyes burnt. I felt the tears before they fell. My cheek dropped one. He wiped it with his thumb, then silence. No words, no breath. One moment, he kissed me softly, slow, like he was waiting for permission, and I gave it. As soon as I kissed him back, everything fell apart. I don't recall standing. I forget how we got from the living room to the couch. I only recall heat, skin, and breath. He held me like a frail but important thing, let go of what I thought made me powerful. Our bodies spoke a language I hadn't heard in years. No fear or hesitancy existed then, just given to him, myself, and the woman I was but never became. The candle burned low as we lay intertwined in the quiet. Despite singing, my heart broke as I glanced at the ceiling. The moment it ended, I knew everything had changed. No one could undo it, pretend it didn't happen, or make it right. I wondered who I was once we crossed a clear line and smashed it. I couldn't look at him the next morning. I got up early, put on my robe, and went downstairs like I was trying to escape. The table candle burned out, The couch cushions were dented, and our blanket lay on the floor. Everything was too loud, like the room was screaming at me. I made coffee with trembling hands, didn't drink it, and needed to do something. I stopped as I heard his footsteps. I looked away when he entered the doorway with gentle eyes and parted lips, as if to speak. His hope suggested he believed something may come from this, and I couldn't let him believe that. He waited as I pretended to scrub the counter that didn't require cleaning. He asked gently, "Can we?" I interrupt because I'm busy today. I had a clipped, incorrect voice. I couldn't look at him when he paused. Afterward, he muttered, "Okay, quiet, hurt," and left. I slumped onto a stool, heart racing, stomach churning. Had I done what? Not only did my body hurt, but it seemed like something inside me had split open, and I was attempting to close it with shaking hands. Throughout the day, I avoided him, staying down if I heard him upstairs. If I went to the kitchen, I waited for silence. I thought I was protecting him, but I was hiding from him, myself, and our actions. Matthew returned home that night. His bag thudded on the floor, and his voice went through the home, too normal and happy. My skin crawled.
Kissed my cheek.
I recoiled. He noticed. His smile sagged, but he didn't say anything. I was asked what I made for dinner. Serving dishes. I forced myself to believe everything was the same when it wasn't. Not anything. Caleb descended last, slower than usual. He ignored me, sat across the table, and scarcely ate. I never looked away from my plate. Matthew talked about his trip, questioned Caleb about school, and made bad jokes. No one laughed. Caleb disappeared upstairs after dinner. Matthew narrowed his eyes at me. "Everything okay?"
"Yes," he said.
Too fast. Just exhausted, not pressing. He never did, but I felt it. Something felt wrong, just enough to wonder, not accuse. When Matthew reached for me in bed that night, I flinched again and said I had a headache. He rolled over without saying a word and fell asleep, leaving me staring at the ceiling and hearing the storm inside me. Things became worse the following days. Caleb rarely spoke. Once warm, his eyes now held confusion and treachery. He stole something I gave him. I made him think there was a doorway, then closed it. He wasn't mad. He wasn't cold. He was harmed, and I died. I tried to erase it, but every room whispered our actions. The couch, hallway, stairs, even the bathroom mirror, where I saw myself and didn't know her. Life passed me by like a ghost. The guilt and anguish of something genuine, even if wrong, weighed on me continually. I couldn't discuss it. Not my friends, husband, or even myself. So I wore the guilt like perfume close to the skin, unnoticeable to most but constantly present. Caleb quieted and recoiled, as if to avoid my decision's whiplash. He may have finally seen me as a woman lost in her own emptiness, eager for something warm, even if it burnt. I couldn't look at him the next morning. I got up early, put on my robe, and went downstairs like I was trying to escape. Table candle burned out. Dented couch cushions remained. Our blanket was thrown on the floor. Everything was too loud, like the room was screaming at me. I made coffee shakily and didn't drink it. I needed to do something. I stopped as I heard his footsteps. I looked away when he entered the doorway with gentle eyes and parted lips, as if to speak. His hope, which indicated something could come from this, was too much for me. I wouldn't let him believe that. He waited as I pretended to scrub the counter that didn't require cleaning. He asked gently, "Can we?" I interrupt because I'm busy today. I had a clipped, incorrect voice. He paused. I couldn't look at him. "Okay," he said quietly, hurt. Then he left. I slumped onto a stool, heart racing, stomach churning. Had I done what? Not only did my body hurt, but it seemed like something inside me had split open, and I was attempting to close it with shaking hands. Throughout the day, I avoided him, staying down if I heard him upstairs. If I went to the kitchen, I waited for silence. I thought I was protecting him, but I was hiding from him, myself, and our actions. Later that evening, Matthew returned with his bag thudding on the floor and his voice echoing. Way too typical and happy. My skin crawled.
Kissed my cheek.
I recoiled. He noticed. His smile sagged, but he didn't say anything. I was asked what I made for dinner. Serving dishes. I forced myself to believe everything was the same when it wasn't. Not anything. Caleb descended last, slower than usual. My eyes were ignored. He ate little while sitting across the table. I never looked away from my plate. Matthew sought to discuss his vacation, asked Caleb about school, tried jokes that failed. No one laughed. Caleb disappeared upstairs after dinner. Matthew narrowed his eyes at me. Everything okay? As I stated, too fast, just exhausted. Not pressing. He never did, but I felt it. Something felt wrong. Just enough to wonder, not accuse. When Matthew reached for me in bed that night, I flinched again and said I had a headache. He rolled over silently. I fell asleep and stared at the ceiling, hearing the storm inside me. Things became worse the following days. Caleb rarely spoke. Once warm, his eyes now held confusion and treachery. He stole something I gave him. I made him think there was a doorway, then closed it. He wasn't mad. He wasn't cold. He was harmed and I died. I tried to erase it, but every room whispered our actions. The couch, hallway, stairs, even the bathroom mirror, where I saw myself and didn't know her. Life passed me by like a ghost. The guilt and anguish of something genuine, even if wrong, weighed on me continually. I couldn't discuss it, not my friends, husband, or even myself. So I wore the guilt like perfume close to the skin, unnoticeable to most but constantly present. Caleb quieted and recoiled, as if to avoid my decision's whiplash. He may have finally seen me as a woman lost in her own emptiness, eager for something warm, even if it burnt. Not even my therapist knows. For years, it's pressed on my ribcage like a secret yearning to escape. Tonight, I needed to let it breathe, not for pardon or atonement, but to be heard. Because sometimes our burdens weigh more than sin. I'm tired of carrying this silently. Was I mistaken about what happened? Did I just want to be seen, touched, and felt after years of feeling nothing? I know this, but don't know. Until you're standing in that hallway with your hand on a doorknob and your heart bleeding for something you didn't know you could do, it's simple to say what you do. Have you crossed a line you couldn't uncross? Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered, who am I? How would you have handled my situation? If this story made you pause, feel, or remember a past self, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with someone who may be carrying an invisible weight. Please subscribe to Shocking Infidelity Saga, where we reveal secrets people won't tell. All of us have stories we're afraid to tell. Maybe telling starts the mending. If nothing else from tonight sticks, remember this. Hungering alone is dangerous. Ignoring it or pretending it doesn't exist will allow it to feed on whatever's closest, even if it's forbidden, never meant to be handled, or destroys you. Never wait to be seen, talk, feel, or reach before stillness kills you.